Offer. It's finally time. Starship is ready to lift off for the 8th time, and SpaceX has introduced some key changes to the flight plan, which we will discuss in this video. Before we delve any deeper, please make sure to subscribe to our channel for future updates about Starship and SpaceX's other groundbreaking achievements. Initially planned for an earlier launch, this mission has faced multiple delays due to technical refinements, safety evaluations, and regulatory approvals. SpaceX has used this additional time to thoroughly test and upgrade critical systems, ensuring that this launch is the most optimized version of Starship yet. Now, with most preparations nearing completion, Starship is finally set to lift off on March 3rd. SpaceX's launch preparations follow a carefully structured sequence. The process began with stacking the Super Heavy booster and Starship upper stage. The full stack assembly was completed in late February, after which SpaceX proceeded with static fire tests to validate engine performance. Once stacking was completed, cryogenic proof testing was conducted to assess the vehicle's ability to withstand extreme cold and high-pressure conditions, simulating the stresses it will experience in flight. Booster and ship static fires were then carried out, where engines were briefly ignited to verify their functionality. This was followed by the Flight Readiness review, a detailed analysis by engineers and flight directors to confirm that all systems were ready for launch. The final pre-launch checkouts included avionics tests, software updates, and mechanical inspections to ensure a smooth countdown sequence. With these steps complete, all that remains is the final countdown and fueling before launch. SpaceX will start broadcasting approximately 40 minutes before liftoff, providing live coverage of the countdown and final preparations. Meanwhile, road closures will begin earlier in the day, around 11 a.m., to allow the team to conduct critical pre-launch procedures. By the time the webcast starts, the fueling process will likely already be underway. At T-1 hour and 15 minutes, the SpaceX flight director will complete checks and verify the go status for propellant loading. The fueling sequence follows a precise timeline, starting with Starship's liquid oxygen loading, followed by liquid methane, then booster methane, and finally booster liquid oxygen. The entire fueling process takes approximately 43 minutes to complete. The ship will finish fueling at T-3 minutes and 20 seconds, while the booster will complete fueling at T-50 seconds before launch. This phase of the countdown features dramatic venting from the fueling systems, creating an impressive visual at the launch site. One of the most crucial steps leading up to launch is the engine chill process, which begins at T-19 minutes and 40 seconds. This procedure gradually cools the engines before they come into contact with cryogenic fuel, preventing thermal shock and ensuring optimal performance at ignition. As the countdown reaches its final moments, the SpaceX flight director will verify the final go for launch at T-30 seconds. Just 10 seconds before liftoff, the flame deflector system, commonly known as the water deluge system, will activate, releasing about 350,000 gallons of water to suppress the intense heat and acoustic pressure generated by the Raptor engines. Then, the engines will ignite in a carefully orchestrated sequence, starting with the inner engines and progressing outward. With 33 Raptor engines generating over 7,000 tons of thrust, Starship will lift off from the pad, marking the beginning of another ambitious flight test. Without the water deluge system, the raw force of the engine ignition could cause severe damage to the pad, as we saw during Starship's first-ever launch. During the first integrated flight test, SpaceX had not yet implemented the water deluge system, largely because they were unsure of what to expect. As a result, when Starship ignited its engines, the sheer force obliterated the concrete launch pad, blasting debris in all directions and even carving a massive crater beneath the launch mount. Chunks of concrete and dust were thrown hundreds of meters away, damaging ground infrastructure and proving that a reinforced suppression system was absolutely necessary for future flights. For later launches, SpaceX introduced the water deluge system. By flooding the pad with massive amounts of water at high pressure, the system effectively absorbs heat, dampens vibrations, and reduces the destructive acoustic forces that would otherwise wreak havoc on the launch structure. To be honest, this has been one of the most successful engineering implementations SpaceX has ever achieved. Ever since the water deluge system was put into place, it has completely mitigated the catastrophic damage seen in the first launch. Moving forward, SpaceX has had virtually no concerns about the enormous power unleashed by the 33 Raptor engines. Once Starship clears the launch tower, it will rapidly ascend towards space. The first major milestone occurs at T+1 minute and 2 seconds when the vehicle reaches max Q, the point of maximum aerodynamic stress. Successfully passing this phase is crucial for ensuring the structural integrity of the vehicle as it continues its ascent. At T+2 minutes and 32 seconds, preparations for stage separation will begin. The Super Heavy booster's engines will shut down, except for 3 central engines that remain active to provide thrust for the separation process. Just a few seconds later, at T+2 minutes and 40 seconds, the hot staging mechanism will engage, igniting the upper stage engines while still attached to the booster. At T+2 minutes and 45 seconds, the boost back burn will begin. During this maneuver, 10 engines from the middle ring of the Super Heavy booster will fire, stabilizing the booster and guiding it toward its planned landing zone. The boost back burn concludes at T+3 minutes and 30 seconds, followed by the jettisoning of the hot staging ring to reduce weight and improve the chances of a controlled landing. After stage separation, Starship will continue its ascent, reaching its peak altitude at T+8 minutes and 44 seconds when its engines shut down. One of the mission's new objectives is the payload deployment test at T+17 minutes and 24 seconds. Although Flight 7 attempted this, it was not fully completed. During Flight 7, SpaceX planned to deploy 10 payloads, but issues arose with the deployment system, preventing it from functioning as expected. The exact cause of the failure was not fully disclosed, but SpaceX engineers determined that modifications were necessary to ensure a more reliable deployment mechanism. The deployment mechanism for Flight 8 has been streamlined and refined. Starship's ultimate payload capacity is expected to far exceed any rocket ever built. When fully operational, Starship will be able to carry up to 150 metric tons to low Earth orbit in a fully reusable configuration. In an expendable version, that number increases to around 250 metric tons, making it the most powerful rocket ever developed in terms of payload capacity. To put this into perspective, the Saturn V, which took astronauts to the Moon, had a maximum payload capacity of 140 metric tons to low Earth orbit. NASA's Space Launch System, currently the most powerful operational rocket, can carry 95 metric tons in its Block 1 configuration and is expected to reach 130 metric tons in future versions. Meanwhile, SpaceX's own Falcon Heavy, which was the most powerful rocket in service before Starship, can deliver 63.8 metric tons to low Earth orbit. With such immense capabilities, Starship is designed for more than just payload deployment to orbit. It is envisioned as a multi-purpose spacecraft that will be capable of delivering satellites, supporting space stations, refueling other spacecraft in orbit, and ultimately carrying humans to the Moon and Mars. The success of the payload deployment test in Flight 8 is a crucial step toward validating its ability to efficiently deploy satellites and other cargo, an essential feature for both commercial and deep space missions. That's all for today's video. Thanks for watching.